The Boys, based off a comic book series, is a world where superheroes exist, but the culture around them is imbued with sordid corporate marketing and PR, the shallow facade of celebrity, and they themselves, as superheroes, or supes, have narcissistic and psychopathic character flaws. Taking place a year after the events of the previous season, Season 3's story follows the boys, who are now working as subcontractors for the Bureau of Superhero Affairs, which exists to apprehend rogue supes. Huey Campbell, in a relationship with Supe Annie, known as Starlight, is their liaison. Billy Butcher begins to investigate Payback, a disbanded superhero team whose leader, Soldier Boy, mysteriously disappeared, in hopes of finding a weapon capable of killing Homelander for good. In typically meta style, the show opens with the events of the last season, most notably Homelander's relationship with a neo-Nazi supe, except reimagined and factually manipulated as a feature film, doubling as a public relations exercise in which the superheroes, and Homelander in particular, are cast as virtuous, fighting for a higher moral purpose against evil in a brilliant satirization of mass-market Marvel-style entertainment and the venal forces of corporate image management. The Boys satirizes both right-wing staunch libertarianism and left-wing flaky excesses. And the intent isn't so much social commentary, which would be too on-the-nose and unsophisticated. The cleverness is in satirizing the tropes of identity politics and celebrity and social media. Supes wishing to be elevated to the Seven, a round table of superhero elites, have to compete in a reality TV show, with variables and outcomes influenced by ethnic background, demographics, marketability, and loyalty. The show excels when it uses its hyper-real, often farcical world to emphasize the often equally farcical episodes and cultural events of our actual world. From the brutal demagoguery of Trumpism to the vainglorious lack of awareness of liberal celebrities, best depicted when the character of A-Train, looking to rehabilitate his image, enters into a beautiful parody of Kendall Jenner's tone-deaf Pepsi commercial. The celebrity performance of Imagine at the outset of the pandemic is also ruthlessly parodied. Vortland theme park, demonstrating its support for Pride, is portrayed with the empty insincerity and banality of modern corporate virtue signaling. Every conflict between significant characters that filters down or erupts into public view immediately divides between left and right. Militant gun supporters and conspiracy theorists are wary of and constantly criticizing legacy media. Homelander gets talking points across via sympathetic, Hannity-esque cable news. Liberals express all the cringeworthy excesses of social justice and the emoji-ridden angst and melodrama of social media. The show then expresses its best qualities. The two-dimensional valor or malice of conventional superheroes subverted and transposed into the douchiest of human impulses and behaviors. Transactional, kinky sex, drugs, and shallow excess. One supe, Termite, shrinks down to micro-size and enters his partner's anus, providing pleasure by stroking the inner walls and prostate, before sneezing and inadvertently reverting to regular size, eviscerating and tearing apart his partner's body. It's sophisticated writing that leans heavily into farce and gross-out body horror. The Deep, an idiotic character whose powers are deliberately ambiguous, is regularly sexually enamored with horny octopuses, but in order to get back into Homelander's good graces, he has to eat one. Some of the best meta-comedy involves Soldier Boy, who, at the height of his fame in the 80s, was feted and marketed as a celebrity, with a hilarious music video of him performing a cover of Rapture by Blondie, complete with nonsensical rap lyrics and 80s throwbacks The Solid Gold Dancers. Paul Reiser puts in an excellent turn as a debauched and cynical mogul from yesteryear who oversaw much of Soldier Boy's career. The highlight of the series, as a sustainedly funny set piece, is Herogasm, an annual sleazy, orgiastic get-together of supes, which serves as a preposterous setting for a high-stakes showdown when all the main characters converge there, with Butcher and Huey having injected Temp V, a chemical that will give them 24-hour superpowers. Supported by Soldier Boy, freed from a Russian prison, they attempt to take down Homelander. There are other highlights. The mute character of Black Noir, whose name is a joke in itself considering noir translates as black, goes through a mental process, in his damaged brain, of deciding which path to take, portrayed in a sequence macabrely evocative of the Mary Poppins-style superimposing of cartoon on real world. The strange confluence of gritty realism, satire, actual pathos and drama, and layering of intriguingly incongruous genres is cleverly brought off. If I had any issues with the show, it would perhaps be the disproportionate amount of time dedicated to the subplot of Kimiko and Frenchie, who struggle to rise above being ancillary characters, and who only rarely draw enough involvement to feel more than lulls or intermissions between the more involving and meta-comedic storylines. It also needs to be said that this would have been a fantastic last season. There was enough here to resolve the whole saga, with a narrative arc that was heading to a satisfying conclusion, with various sacrifices and martyrdoms among the good guys, and final moments of the bad guys being vanquished. Instead, the show veers away towards an unsatisfying irresolution, where all the principals kind of revert to their narrative starting positions, with a somewhat mechanical setup of new narrative threads for a new season. Sometimes you can have too much of a good thing, and the bolder decision to call it quits is sometimes the better option with greater integrity. There's a danger this show will become benignly circular, with lower stakes and diminishing returns, as the writers have to devise ever more contrived ways to prevent the all-powerful Homelander from simply hounding down his adversaries and killing them. Then again, I only had modest expectations for this series of The Boys, and I hope I'll be pleasantly surprised by the next.